again, friends. Welcome to episode 3. So what we're going to be talking about, as promised before, was treasure hunts and super treasure hunts. So I've been fortunate enough to be collecting when it was a little easier to find them on the shelves, and I can show you what I found. Now what I will do too is things have, since 1995 when they first started, things have gone through a few changes. So how about I show you all my treasure hunts first, and all my supers I should say, and then from there I'll break it down and give you the information you probably want to hear. Alright, cheers. Hey, here we are at Garage Central again, or the Hobbies garage you could call it nearly. Okay, continuing on from last week's episode, I was pointed out by one of the followers on YouTube, I forgot all about base variations. So I'm going to just stop for 2 seconds before I get into the supers and the regular treasure hunts and just talk to you quickly about base variations. So another form of obviously variation is, as we just said, the base. Now I'll give you an example of a real good one, is the good old Thunderbolt. Now it's pretty popular casting. Have a look at the bases. The most common one you'll find is this, it's like a black chrome base. Or dark chrome base, I guess you'd say, but also came in, come on, focus, also came in a dark grey plastic base, or this one's plastic too. And then I was fortunate enough to be on a cruise down the coast of California, and we stopped at Cabo San Lucas of all places. And while everyone's out enjoying the sun, I caught a taxi to Walmart because I'd never been to a Walmart before, and yeah, I found that black base. So there you go, 3 different bases. Sometimes you've got different writing on bases, sometimes you've got metal, sometimes it's painted metal. So a real good one is with the super. There we go, Super Roadrunner from 2008, really nice car and casting. Commonly comes bare metal base, but then have a look at this, painted metal base. So you can see the difference there, hopefully. I'll get out of sight. So one is like got a frosted metallic silver paint, and the other one is bare metal. So sometimes painted bases, sometimes there's actually some casting variations on the bases. But anyway, that probably includes last week's add-on for variations, and that's base variations. Okay, so this is my treasure hunt wall, starting in 1995, and then of course moving on to the progression of supers. Over here. Now you've also got available the treasure hunt sets that come out through the Red Line Club that I talked about in week 1. So I'll crack that open and show you in a little while, but maybe we'll just go out to the garage first. I'll get my whiteboard out, and then we can actually explain the timeline of how treasure hunts over here turned into supers over here. Okay, so let's get into it. Regular and super treasure hunts. So what I've done is I've got my whiteboard here, and I'll try and zoom into that and give you a bit of a timeline on the changes that have happened basically with the regulars, or they used to be called just treasure hunts, and then they moved to the 2-tier system, which is regular and supers. So how about I go over here, I'll focus in, and we'll get started on supers and treasure hunts. Okay guys, now you're going to have to excuse, well, let's get it up a bit. You're going to have to excuse the background noise, but whenever I can find time to do a YouTube video, the neighbour wants to mow his lawn. So I hope I'll just shut the garage door. It's going to be a bit hot in here, so mind me if I get a bit sweaty. Anyway, let's just go and show you this timeline, alright? So, treasure hunt started in 1995. So hopefully you can see that, 1995. I'll have to do real big writing. Okay, so let's go all the way out here to 2021. All right, so I hope you can all see that clearly. Right, so basically there's a couple of important dates where changes happened, right? We've got 2007 and then of course 2011. All right, so there's the sort of dates that are most important for our treasure hunts. Now, in 1995, they started producing what they call the treasure hunt. All right, so let's just firstly discuss treasure hunts. Okay, so let's talk about 1995 to 2007. Now, in this period, they made treasure hunts. They weren't referred to as regular, they weren't referred to as super, they were just treasure hunts, and that's all we knew. Now, they started out in 95 and they were really limited. They were really hard to find. Now, that's an example of a 1995 treasure hunt, and if you'll see, there across the top of the blister is a green strip that will say Treasure Hunt Series. Now, if you notice, there's a little dollar sign in it instead of the S, and that's one of the characteristics of Treasure Hunt, in that they've been like a treasure to find, in that they've always been somewhat valuable, and because they've been a lot rarer and shorter run than most of the other cars in the assortment. So they continued doing these treasure hunts with the green strip above the blister, just like this. Now this car is significant because it was my first ever treasure hunt was this car. Now, I started collecting in 1997, late 1997, and I thought treasure hunts were a myth because I'd only heard of them and I'd never been able to find one. But I was actually on holidays, and I've had some great holiday finds over time, and I found this in New Zealand. So I was with 11 others who were going on a big camper holiday through New Zealand, got off the plane, went to the shopping centre to get some supplies, and I was saying, hey everybody, I've got to check the toy store, as you do when you're a collector. And sure enough, there he was on the front of the pegs. So that's close to my heart, that one, because that is my first ever treasure hunt. So that really started me chasing super hard. Excuse my use of the word super. Now, of course, treasure hunts come in variations too. One of my more favourite variations of treasure hunts, the early ones, is the good old Ferrari. Now, if you see those pretty neat PC5 wheels that haven't appeared that often through the years, but if you have a look at the bases on these, we touched earlier on about base variations. One has got a painted black base, and that is super rare, and the other one's got, of course, just the exposed metal. Now, in 2001, they decided to make quite a major change with cards. Now, if you have a look at the Roger Dodger here, as you'll notice, that the green strip has been swapped out to the edge of the card. Now, this was a pretty good thing when you're trying to get through the shells kind of fast, because if you can imagine all of the cars next to each other on the pegs, it was really easy just to pull one peg to the side, get the car row in a bit of a diagonal, and you could see all through and see whether you could find a treasure hunt. So that was pretty handy back in those days, because people were asking, you know, it was too hard to see them, because generally us, a lot of collectors, are a bit of a complaining lot. So they did that so you could find them easier. So they've changed a little bit more. I guess it was kind of hard to read. Hang on. It was kind of hard to read the side there, so they started expanding the sides to a thicker information panel, and what you'll see here is the good old silver CUDA. So the regular release is that red one. These wheels are called co-mold wheels. And then of course the limited edition, and correct me if I'm wrong, only in Kroger stores in the US did that silver Cuda appear, and that is one to get your hands on if ever you're chasing Cudas. So that'd probably take us up to 2007, or 2006 I should say. One thing you need to remember is that some years they made things with rubber wheels and some of them weren't. So you get your 12 a year release, one for each month, theoretically, and you would have rubber wheels on some, regular wheels on others, but they still were called treasure hunts. They weren't called regular treasure hunts, and they weren't called super treasure hunts. Okay, well, that all done and dusted. If we move on to 2007, that was a really important date, because that's when they started the two-tier system, where we had what we call regular treasure hunts and super treasure hunts. Alright, so previously, before then, no such thing as a super. Anytime you see a treasure hunt that's from 1995 to 2006, it's not a super if it's got rubber wheels. It's just a treasure hunt. Alright, so when they made treasure hunts, sometimes they made them with rubber wheels, and sometimes they made them with regular wheels. Alright, so keep that in mind. Right, so then we've got 2007 to 2011, where it changed, right, into a two-tier system. Now I'll go on to explain those with a few cars in a second, and then we'll move on to the rest. Okay, so here it brings us to 2007 to 2011, and the main change that they made with the treasure hunts was they decided to make a two-tier system. The two-tier system is, as we discussed already, regular treasure hunts and super treasure hunts. Now the main thing with these was they had a green strip. They had a green strip, and they had the same car was the regular, and then they made a super treasure hunt version of the same car. So what we've got is one car with a basic metallic green paint job, and basically regular 5-spoke wheels. And then what they've done is they've lifted it up to a, hopefully you can see that, an anodized paint job, or a better paint job for the super. And of course we have real rubber wheels there, and we also have some form of treasure hunt logo on the car. So with this one here, it's at the front. I think it's pretty fine, so hopefully you can see it behind the front wheel there. It's got TH08, because of course this is a 2008. So that's one of the main things to remember. And of course, having a green strip on the regulars and a green strip on the card of the supers as well. Now just have a look, and these are international cards, alright? One says T Hunt and one says T Hunts with a dollar symbol. So of course the one with the T Hunts with the dollar symbol is going to be the super, and that's how you can tell the difference between the cards. Now of course then we've got things like international cards. Now because I'm in Australia, we get the T Hunts, right, which is the super cards that we get. But in of course USA, it's treasure hunts. And if you can see, they've still utilised, with the supers, they've still utilised the $S, right? But we have an abbreviated T Hunt, and they've got it spelt out on the side of the card. So that's the difference between international and you might even notice too on this U-Butte Enzo Ferrari, on the international cards, I think all of the international cards have Ferrari spelt with 3 R's, which is not how it's normally spelled, of course. Now, when you're talking about, you know how I love supers, how I love variations. well, one of my favourite variations that I thought I'd show you, because I'll stop every now and then and just throw in one of my favourites that's on topic. And just have a quick look at this because it's kind of interesting, and I've been asked a question about it. Okay, so what we're dealing with here is the Skyline R32 GTR Super Treasure Hunt. Alright, so I do have one here, of course, on, as you might notice, international card, and one on regular US card. Now the US card, now let me just bring it right around here to show you in front of my table. If you have a look on the back of there, and I might have to inset these photos like I did last week, but you might see that the one up top has got no Skyline written and it's got no GTR written. Also missing the other one on the side, the other temp on the side. Now, a lot of people have said to me, no, it's just an error. But if you have a look, the red GTR red tempo there, the actual red, if it was just the black that was missing, there would still be a red R where the GTR tempo should be. So my idea of reasoning behind these is that someone did it on purpose. Now, going back to last week's episode, a variation for me is something that somebody did on purpose at the factory. Whether they had to or not is not really a consideration for me, because this was done on purpose, because the actual red, if that tempo was just a missed tempo, there would be red on there because there is already red there for the tail lights. So that's my line of reasoning from that, and it's a great variation, so look out for it. The other thing is too, for you guys who are into your JDMs, which I know there's plenty out there, have a look at the regular. This is the regular version of that treasure hunt, that Super there. Now if you have a look, and I might have to take another picture of this, if you have a look in front of the rear wheel well, you'll see that one has a black RC tempo and one has an orange. So the orange one is down the bottom and the black one is up the top. It's a very small tempo difference, but it's still a tempo variation. So still something that is what I chase. Now we'll be moving on now to when things changed up in 2011, because that's all fairly straightforward. Okay, so if we're all clear on that, then all of a sudden we move, and I will move too. Then all of a sudden we get to this other important date, 2011. Now, what had happened was a lot of people were complaining because of these green strips that it was easy for scalpers to jump in the box, green strip, stood out like the proverbial, and then of course everyone could just grab them without actually having to look for them. So they devised this plan where they would make what was initially referred to as a secret or hidden super. Alright, so these supers, these secret or hidden supers, were exactly the same cars as would be in the normal assortment, but there'd just be better paint jobs, rubber wheels, etc, etc, treasure hunt logo, but roughly the card would be more or less the same at first glance as would be the regular car of that, the actual regular casting of that same car. So then what they did too is they changed from doing the same car as we discussed from 2007 to 2011, where the same car came in two versions, right? Then what they did was they completely changed it. So the same car that it was the Super was just a regular mainline, right? And then they started introducing a different casting altogether that became the regular treasure hunt. Now, a lot of those now are possibly directed at children because there seems to be an overwhelming majority of fantasy cars. And so I've explained the differences between a Super and a regular treasure hunt already, but the key difference from 2001 till in fact today is the fact that we have the Super Treasure Hunt, right, has an equivalent mainline, but the regular Treasure Hunt is totally different. So we can see basically the three stages of, or the evolution of treasure hunts and supers, and I'll go in and show you a few examples of that now. Okay, so this brings us to our last segment of the timeline, which of course is from 2011. So many people were complaining that the green strips were hard to find, so what they did was they changed things up and started to release a super on a normal looking card. So here is a normal looking card, and you've got, of course, you've got a Super Treasure Hunt. Now, how things changed then is, instead of the regular release becoming the regular Treasure Hunt, they changed up altogether and made a new line of regular treasure hunts, something like that. Now, I happen to feel that most of those were probably directed at the younger collectors to try and encourage them to collect, because the majority of them, as I've touched on already, seem to be fantasy castings. But what we'll have is we still have the Spectraflame paint jobs, we still have the real rubber wheels, and we have, of course, no green strip all of a sudden from 2011 up until present. But what we do have is we have a little logo. Now let me get close to here. You should be able to see underneath the car here, that's probably the better way, a little gold circle Treasure Hunt logo. Now a super will have, it will have Super STH written on it somewhere. It'll have the Spectraflame paint, and it'll have a regular card, except for you'll have the Super Treasure Hunt logo, which is in gold. And the regular treasure hunts will have, and this is why I chose this one to show you, we'll have a silver symbol underneath. Here we go, the silver Treasure Hunt logo under there. So that's how you differentiate between a treasure hunt and a regular treasure hunt these days. So that's been happening since 2011. Now what they've done, of course, is, as I say, they've removed the main line equivalent of the super is now just a regular main line. So now it's correct talking about supers and regulars as it was since 2007. But before then, just treasure hunts. Now, as I always do, I have to show you my favourite. So up until this point, this guy here is my favourite Super Treasure Hunt. Now that is actually a reproduction of the first 67 Camaro that they did, only with a Spectro paint job. So the first one they ever did was a red, and of course there's a main line red equivalent with the same tampos as what appeared originally, and I think it was 81 or 83, I can't remember off the top of my head. Now that is basically my favourite treasure hunt, the super that they've ever done, but you never know, things change with me sometimes when I go through my fits and phases. So there we have it, folks. That is the tale of treasure hunts and how they became supers and regulars. So I hope once again you learned something, and I'm going to be back here doing them probably more often than once a week, doing videos. So please subscribe if you're learning and enjoying the little journey I'm taking you on. And of course I'll maybe pop into the room now and show you a super treasure hunt set, because they are available where you don't have to go and look. You can get, if you join the Redline Club, they offer them once a year. You've got to be fast online, but I can show you how they come along. So we'll jump in the room and I'll show you my Super Treasure Hunt box set. Okay, here we are in the Hot Wheels room, and I've got one of these to show you. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, Treasure Hunt set 2006. The reason I'm pulling out 2016, sorry. The reason I'm pulling out 2016 is because it was the easiest one to get to. You can imagine having 50,000 cars. Sometimes it's pretty hard to get to stuff. So this one was kind of easy. Now, have a look at that. Engine with a blower, great packaging. The last few years they've been doing this, and yeah, it makes a bit of a difference too to have the box that you can display as well as the insides. Now come on. Alright. Now this 2016 happens to be a run of 1,000. So on the top here you'll see the number there. Mine happens to be a number 831. Nothing too exciting there, but let me just show you this, and voila. So here we go. I'm not going to unpack all of these because you know what they are. 2016 Super Treasure Hunt set. So fantastic way of presenting and displaying the sets. It's a great way to buy them, and if you can get onto the Redline Club, and I probably shouldn't be promoting this because I'm cutting my nose off to spite my face, but you've got to be fast, so make sure your internet connection is good and join the Redline Club, and then you can buy one of these sets. Well, they'll cost you, I think they'll cost about $200 US, but it's a lot cheaper than what they're going for in the secondary market. So anyway, that's a Super Treasure Hunt set. Well, that's the end. That's the end again today for My Hot Wheels Life, episode 3. So subscribe. I'm going to keep coming at you with Hot Wheels information and lots of cars, pictures, lots of explanations and stories and stuff. So get on it. And if you know of anyone else who'd like to sort of learn a bit more about Hot Wheels and have a look at my collection, just add them or share it with them. Share this channel far and wide, and I hopefully will get the collector group growing and more people with more information. So thanks very much everybody. I hope you've enjoyed today, and I'll see you again maybe over the weekend. Cheers guys.